Tartikoff Legacy Awards, and the idea here is every year that we honor 4 representatives of our business who have the passion and the vision and the leadership that honor the memory of our friend Brandon Tartikoff. This year, our 4 honorees are Chuck Lorre, Tyler Perry, Ben Silverman, and Ann Sweeney. You can But none of this is possible without the support of friends. And so I would like to first thank our friends at NBC Universal who every year, in good times and bad, have supported this evening. And it's extremely important, especially now when times aren't so good, for us to get that support. And Ben will be up here later representing NBC. So we have our representative from Broadcasting and Cable, Larry Dunn. Would you just come up and say a few words, please?
Thank you, Rick. Congratulations on a great agenda for NATPE this year. Good evening, everybody. We always look forward to this event, not only because it kicks off NATPE, but because we're here to celebrate Brandon's spirit. And also, it's always thrilling that we always have Lily here and her family every year. Can we have a hand, please, for Lily? Tonight, we celebrate 4 outstanding individuals. Congratulations to Ann, to Ben, to Chuck, and to Tyler. On behalf of Ben Grossman, who's the editor-in-chief of Broadcasting and Cable, along with Melissa Greco, who's the executive editor, and Mark Robichaud, the editors of Multi-Channel News, congratulations and enjoy the evening. Thank you.
I'd like to thank you all for coming to this special evening and for making it possible to continue the Brandon Tartikoff Legacy Awards. Brandon always looked forward to attending NATPE. He loved any excuse to talk showbiz. Brandon Tartikoff loved television. He loved the people that wrote and created great shows. He loved the thrill of developing an idea into a hit show. He was addicted and obsessed with your powerful medium. To the 4 extraordinary people accepting his award, he would speak about their talent and especially their vision, and then he would celebrate them. It is Chuck Lorre who represents the tried and true traditional sitcom that Brandon so coveted. Tyler Perry would show those that thumbed their noses at his projects, and he would basically create his own kind of programming and then own it entirely. Then Silverman would leave the country to discover his niche and would create his own version of a rags to riches story and then return as a young Brandon Tartikoff. And then there is Ann Sweeney, who is the rarest of combinations: brains, beauty, and TV genius. Brandon loved the winners. He would have had such a good time with these 4 amazing people. It is an honor to stand before you all. You all represent the family of television. It still hurts that he can't be here to experience this privilege. It would be important to Brandon to thank the people that support NATPE. He would want me to thank Broadcasting and Cable, Daily Variety, Multi-Channel News, and NBC Universal. We all know he loved being the center of their attention. And finally, he would be so touched that his friend at NATPE, Rick Feldman, his friend that shared both his loves, baseball and television, would insist on keeping his vision alive. Thank you.
Thank you, Lulu. So, we're doing this in alphabetical order. Chuck Lorre, a.k.a. Charles Levine from Long Island. There's a theme to it, this is New York stuff tonight. Chuck's a writer, a director, a producer, and a composer. But we honor Chuck because he is almost single-handedly keeping the multi-camera sitcom alive. And that, of course, keeps the off-net syndication business alive as well. His current shows, 2 1/2 Men and Big Bang Theory, continue to rule the roost. To introduce him and his tape tonight is our old friend and a recipient himself, Peter Roth.
It is an absolute privilege for me to honor and introduce one of the most deserving, most talented, most appropriate recipients of tonight's prestigious Brandon Tartikoff Legacy Awards, my friend, my colleague, Mr. Charles Levine. Now, little did Chuck realize when we first met 13 and a half years ago while still at 20th Century Fox Television, that he represented the most coveted prize in what Peter Trin and I then termed as our Yom Kippur assault on comedy writers. See, back then we needed to do something radical to change our fortunes in the comedy game. So we assembled a list and we assigned 7 of the most talented and successful comedy showrunners in the business. Now, at the absolute top of our list, and the only one who really hit the jackpot for us, was Chuck Lorre. His Dharma and Greg would go on to become his 3rd, and at that time, most successful comedy series creation behind Sybil and Grace Under Fire. Now, Chuck once again became my most important, most critical must-have acquisition when I arrived at Warner Brothers in 1999. And considering his enormous success at 20th, it was no small feat to entice him and lure him to come to Warner's. To be blunt, the image of a Brinks truck comes vividly to mind. I remember Barry Meyer asking me prior to making such a significant investment if Chuck was the real deal. Well, fortunately, there's no question that he was. And while it wasn't always easy, Chuck went on to prove to the world that he clearly deserved his status as the preeminent comedy showrunner and creator in the business. His 4th creation, 2 1/2 Men, is far and away the most successful comedy currently on the air. And his 5th, The Big Bang Theory, is the fastest growing comedy on all of television. But beyond all of that, Chuck personified all of the very best qualities that define Brandon. He's a consummate showman. He's brilliantly talented. He is passionate and relentless in his pursuit towards excellence. He is tireless in his efforts and in his work ethic. He can be fiercely competitive, yet a true mensch. And he has a magnificent and often very wicked sense of humor. I am certain that Brandon would wholeheartedly agree that tonight we are honoring someone well worthy of his remarkable legacy. Ladies and gentlemen, let's take a look at the work of Charles Levine.
The first time I met Hugh Laurie was years before he was an actor, and Chuck Lorre. That's a mistake.
147. He was a studio contract player at MGM, and I was a young starlet who had just arrived in Hollywood.
I first met Chuck Lorre at a G&L parade in San Francisco in 1973.
I remember the first lunch he and I had at Hamburger Hamlet, and he was an up-and-coming comedy writer.
It was shortly after that that I saw him again at Eddie Van Halen's bachelor party. We wound up in Amsterdam together for a couple of months. Didn't see him again for another 20-some-odd years.
My working relationship with Chuck Lorre is he says jump, and I say how high.
He so knows how to take a script, where it needs to go.
Sometimes he'll just slip his little hand into mine, and we just take a walk for a half hour, 45 minutes around the lot. When I hear his content sigh, I know that he's ready to come back.
He's had Grace Under Fire, Sybil, Dharma and Greg, 2 1/2 Men, and now Big Bang Theory. I mean, who else has done 5?
Pretty honorable fella in a dishonorable town.
Not that it excuses the hitting. He talks about everything, you know, his third nipple, his vestigial tail. Nothing's a secret.
And then he goes and writes a damn vanity card and plays the guitar.
He wrote the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles song.
Chuck is responsible for contributing to the great American songbook, one of the most remarkably average pieces of music. I'd like to play it for you now. That's just terrific, isn't it?
When he first came to Los Angeles, he became very ill. One of the major hospitals wanted to take out some of his organs that he wanted to keep. So he ran out of that hospital. And when he came and saw Venice Family Clinic, he realized here was a place that he could have come to for free and gotten excellent care. He has built a health center named after Chuck's father, and so his commitment to our clinic stems from his own life experience, and it's a very powerful one.
The funny thing that I'll never forget about Chuck is his laughter.
His laugh
borders on a maniacal cackle.
When it's really funny, he'll give you like a little cough at the end. When it's the most hilarious thing, you'll get all of those and a stomp, so you get...
Whenever I was doing a scene and I heard his laugh.
A word to describe Chuck Lorre. Not that one.
He's very fair.
Devilish.
Great instincts.
Oh, I'm so close to having something.
Absolutely tireless.
Gassy.
Mouth breather.
Passionate.
Really cool. Incredibly intense.
He's hot.
Funnily succinct.
Thank you, Chuck, for teaching us that revenge is a dish best served to 20 million viewers.
Congratulations, Chuck, on your Brandon Tartikoff Legacy Award.
Congratulations on a well-deserved and long overdue honor.
Congratulations, Chuck.
Congratulations, Chuck. Congratulations, Chuck.
Congratulations on this awesome award.
Congratulations, Chuck. I love you, man.
Brandon Tartikoff was a very close friend of mine. He shared your passion. Brandon would be pleased knowing that you are getting this legacy award.
Congratulations on your success.
I'm looking forward to meeting him.
Had I known you'd be this successful, I would have been so much nicer to you.
The Brandon Tartikoff Legacy Award could not be going to a more deserving man. I would offer something witty, but because you didn't write anything for me, I got nothing. Way to go, boss.
Ladies and gentlemen, Chuck Lorre.
I'd like to first thank Peter Roth for his kind words, and more importantly, a long-standing friendship. Peter, we've known each other for a long time, and you not only have believed in me, you have continuously backed up that belief with a ridiculous amount of money. Other people's money, but still. I always thought of you when I spent it. I'd also like to thank Mona Garcia and Pam Wilson and Peter as well, and all the folks who worked so hard on that film. You may have noticed that Sybil Shepherd, Brett Butler, and Roseanne Barr were not a part of it. If you're curious about how they felt about me, you can ask them in person. Sybil currently works the morning shift at the Luxor as a keynote waitress. Brett MC's open mic night at the Chucklehead Comedy Club in Laughlin. And, you know, I'm still afraid of Roseanne, so I'm not going to take that chance. It's just... I'd also next like to thank Rick Feldman and the board of NATPE for this incredible honor, the National Association of Television Production Executives. I've always loved that you guys annually gather here in Vegas. I can only assume because Vegas, with the gambling, prostitution, and booze, is a natural place to celebrate what we do for a living.
extend my gratitude for being in such august company. Tyler Perry, I don't know where you are, but Tyler, while I have this chance, I want to tell you how very sorry I am that CBS passed on the pilot I wrote for you 7 years ago. Not nearly as sorry as CBS is. Still, I'm so very pleased to see the enormous success you've had since then, and I must tell you, whenever I drive by a billboard for one of your hit movies or TV series, I think to myself, if that guy had stuck with me, he'd be nothing now. Or worse, he'd be leading into Gary unmarried. Ann Sweeney and Ben Silverman, I don't know either of you, but as long as the possibility exists that I might work for you someday, I want to take this opportunity to say you're terrific people. Last year during the writer's strike, Ben called the writers nerdy and ugly and mean. So I brought Nerdy and Ugly and Mean with me. The producers of 2.5 Men, please stand as Nerdy, Ugly and Mean. There they are. It's true. This is our shot back after years of being punished in high school. That's what it is. Let's call it what it is. And finally, and most importantly, I want to thank Lily Tartikoff. Lily, it is my great, great good fortune to have worked with Brandon at the very beginning of my career. His passion for excellence, his enthusiasm and joy, his love for the medium, his willingness to laugh, which is no small thing in a business where people are afraid to express how they feel, his willingness to respond from the gut, and most important, his simple attitude that TV really matters. It made a very, very big impression on me at the very beginning. And a quick story. 22 years ago, I was a junior writer on an NBC sitcom pilot called Who's Dad? The pilot script told the heartwarming story of an orphan 12-year-old girl whose recently deceased mother did not know which one of two men was her biological father. When NBC picked it up, the series Brandon would rename it My Two Dads, which I think you'll agree had less emphasis on which of the sperm cells hit the bullseye, and was less offensive than the title I pitched, which was My Little Bastard. Anyway, Brandon would come and sit in the writer's room. The president of NBC, and frankly, from my point of view, the king of television would come and sit with us in the writer's room, and he'd pitch jokes, you know, and he was having the time of his life, and I somehow I'd be sitting next to him, and I would have these terrible flop sweats. I'm thinking, you know, a bad joke, and you're out. And, but I got it in my head that if I could pitch a joke that he liked, then I'd be on my way, that there'd be no stopping me, my career trajectory would be vertical. So one day I sucked it up, and I took a deep breath, and I pitched a joke for Paul Reiser's character, and to my everlasting delight, and I'll never forget this, Brandon laughed out loud. And he turned to the executive producer of the pilot and said, "That's funny, put it in the script." And you bet it went in the script. And you should also bet the executive producer was furious with me, and I was almost fired. And you can also bet that my career absolutely went nowhere as a result of it, but he did laugh. And the joke stayed in the script, but more important was what stayed with me, which was the feeling that maybe I belonged, that maybe, you know, I could make my way in this business. I also learned that every joke that makes someone laugh is guaranteed to piss someone else off. So as you might imagine, this award has a lot of personal meaning to me. I had spent the last 15 years writing and producing TV comedy with only one guiding principle, and that is simply that what I do matters, that TV matters. It's not just the stuff between the commercials, it really matters. And I think if there is a Brandon Tartikoff legacy, that's it. The stuff we do matters, and it's worth working very, very hard to make it as great as we can. So with that, I want to thank you again, Lily, and NATPE for this terrific honor. Thank you.
bio an interesting childhood. And back in 1992 in Atlanta, while he was working in a restaurant and in a car dealership, he had an opportunity to see an Oprah show that changed his life. But it then took about 8 years for him to really reach his level of success that he wanted to achieve. We, however, honor him today for his vision in developing and funding House of Pain in 2005-06. And that resulted in a breakthrough model, ultimately resulting in a huge syndication deal with TBS and broadcast stations. He was smart enough to partner up with Mort and Ira, and they did very well for him. I hope he did very well with them. And now House of Pain has over 100 episodes, but he was one of the guys in the business that does what other people don't usually do, which is he put his money where his mouth is. So he showed all in one swoop, his passion and his leadership, all at one time, not to mention his vision. So we're very happy to have him tonight, and introducing the tape and ultimately Tyler is Mike Pasternak from Lionsgate. Mike?
It's an honor for me to be here tonight to talk about Tyler. From the first project we ever did together, I learned that nothing is impossible for Tyler Perry. Let me give you an example. When we make movies, we typically have what are called rain cover days. So if you're supposed to be shooting outdoors and it rains, you go to Plan B and you shoot indoors. But production people, they don't like rain cover days because at the last minute they have to scramble around and there's lots of panic and chaos. Well, on a Tyler Perry film, we've never needed a rain cover day because it's never rained, except once. On the last day of Diary of a Mad Black Woman, the scene actually called for us to shoot in the rain. So we had all the gear there, the pumps and the sprinklers and the whole works. And Tyler said, what do we need this for? And of course, we didn't because it rained. And that's the only day it rained during the entire shoot when we needed the rain. So in addition to everything else, I discovered right at the beginning that Tyler Perry is a rainmaker. You see, the impossible is merely a day's work for Tyler. Let's just look at some of the facts. In the last 5 years alone, he's written and directed 6 hit movies that have earned over $260 million at the box office. He's got a 7th movie being released next month and is shooting number 8 just a few weeks later. He's written and directed 9 plays that, along with the movies, have sold 25 million DVDs, and he's done $500 million in consumer sales. He spent over 500 days on the road. We're talking the last 5 years, by the way. And in his spare time, he developed an animated pilot, wrote a best-selling book, contributed to the rebuilding of New Orleans, produced 2 TV specials, built an enormous studio on 30 acres in Atlanta, and even managed to squeeze in a dinner with the Obamas. Oh yeah, and I almost forgot. In one particularly productive 12-month period, he produced and delivered 126 episodes of House of Pain. And I know I'm forgetting a bunch of stuff too. That's the really sad part. Simply stated, Tyler Perry accomplishes in a year what the rest of us dream about accomplishing in a lifetime. He is the unique combination of creative force, big thinker, big dreamer, and big doer. There is no one more deserving of being honored in the name of the visionary Brendan Tartikoff than the visionary Tyler Perry. Now let's look at a tape that I think says it all.
Tyler Perry is a phenomenon. From the success of his first film, Diary of a Mad Black Woman, which introduced all of America to his wildly popular and most enduring character, Medea.
I'm placing you under house arrest. You ain't finna put me on no house arrest, honey. I ain't finna deal with that.
To the recent box office smash. And from the hit TV series House of Pain to the spectacular sales of his DVDs. Whatever Tyler Perry touches turns to gold.
This is good. I like this. This is better.
key to his success?
There's a whole audience that's been completely ignored.
He knows his audience.
Our audience saw Why Did I Get Married last night. There's a scene in the movie that, did you like it?
Tyler Perry is, in short, a brand unto himself.
For me, the Tyler Perry brand is good family, wholesome entertainment. It's things you can take your entire family to. It's life lessons. It's faith-based. It's about God. It's about love. It's about hope, forgiveness. And ready and action.
When one door closes, God always opens another. No, we don't.
And that brand awareness is spreading.
Actor Tyler Perry. Tyler Perry make history in Atlanta. Actor, director Tyler Perry literally rolled out the red carpet for some real A-listers. Look at that.
To bring something like this to Atlanta, it is fantastic, and I'm just over the moon about it.
Tyler Perry Studios is the first African-American owned studio, not just in Atlanta, but in the entire country.
So Tyler, Meet the Browns, the family that prays. Did you expect this level of success, this popularity with your films?
I had to expect it. I had to expect that they would do very, very well. That's the way I live my life. I live it expecting good things to happen.
He knows what they want, what they've been missing, what they respond to.
Oh my God!
And then he delivers.
Ladies and gentlemen, Tyler Perry.
Okay, so I didn't prepare anything. I'm really going to talk from my heart, and I promise to be brief no matter how long it takes. Man, look at all this stuff. I'm tired. I've been working my... I want to say thank you for this award. I never met Brandon Tartikoff, but being here, I feel like, and meeting Lily, I feel like I absolutely know him. What he represented, his spirit is definitely evident in this place, so I am grateful for that. I got to tell you a little bit of a story. I was working in New Orleans at the Windsor Court Hotel, and this convention has been around for a long time. And this is for security, so you know that this is how people sneak into the convention. I was working in housekeeping. Oh, this can only happen in America, I'm telling you. I was working in housekeeping, and I would see all these celebrities coming in and out of the hotel, and they'd say they were at the NATPE convention. Not NATPE, I thought it was NATPE. What happens is a lot of people will leave on the last day, so I stole one of the badges. Well, I didn't steal it, it was left in the room, so I took it, and I would go to the convention, and I was like, man, I'm gonna meet some celebrities. Man, the day I met Isaac from the Love Boat, I was blown away. But to be that little kid sneaking into the convention and then to be here to have this honor is truly a blessing. I gotta say, some special thanks to so many people who helped me get to this place, including Chuck Lorre. I remember it a little differently, Chuck. I remember me walking away from CBS saying, because they did this thing called notes. I had never heard of that before. You know, I've been doing plays and, you know, they notes. The executives send you notes. Change this and change that and do this. And I say, what? You want me to change? What do you mean change it? But, you know, I just spent all this time establishing my audience and, you know, performing in front of 30,000, 40,000 people a week. I kind of figured I knew what they wanted. I didn't think that I would have to change some of the words. But anyway, I decided to go down to Atlanta and do it myself. And I talked to my agents about it. Charles King, William Morris, who's a great, fantastic agent, he said, there's this guy you can talk to here in the company, the phenomenal Mark Aitken, who is just absolutely brilliant. And the two of us together, we sat down. He said, there's some people I want you to meet. And it was Detmar Mercury. So we all put our heads together, you know, Mort, Ira, Matt Johnson, my lawyer. We came up with this idea to do this, you know, on our own terms, where you're straight into syndication. And you know, we didn't know what was going to happen, but it was miracles that caused this thing to happen. You know,
had to go from just a thought of me being able to tell stories to this, and to have Denmark Mercury and Lionsgate, John Feltheimer, and Mike Pasek, and just everybody over there who has helped make all of this come to pass. It's just been overwhelming. So again, I got to say, I didn't prepare anything, but I just want to say thank you for this award. It means a great deal to me. And again, to be sneaking into the convention 10, 15 years ago, and then to be in this place, only in America. So God bless you. Thank you so much.
Okay, Ben Silverman is up, originally from Massachusetts, but ultimately raised in New York City. Son of Mary, who many of you probably know because she was a TV exec for a long time, and Stanley, a composer who we have the pleasure of having him here tonight. And though we all know that Ben is at NBC Universal now, we are really honoring him for the breakthrough contributions that he actually made before he actually got there. Relative to all of the stuff that he did when he was at William Morris and developing Reveille, and for that 10-year period being involved in some of the biggest hits of in television, like Millionaire and Big Brother and Ugly Betty and all of those things. His ability to smell and sell international formats is uncanny, and as you saw from the tape, back when Ben was a teenager, he saw a piece, I think, in New York Magazine on Brandon, and decided that's what he wanted to do for the rest of his life. And just to see if that's really true, we have Stanley Silverman here tonight to introduce his tape and his son, Ben.
Faces, folks. Terrell couldn't make it, so you got the dad. I think, first of all, I must take a moment to talk about my wonderful son, and Tyler was great. I mean, Ben was always fun. I mean, the kid you all know now was the kid that I grew up with, or that grew up with in our household. Just amazing. And as a musician from the classical world, I would say that the issue of the teacher, the mentor, is absolutely our mother's milk. And this great award named for this great man is really to the core of that, because I've not met Lily, but I want to thank, on behalf of Ben, the Tartikoff family, Brandon, for being this mentor to this boy and really showing him the way. And Ben adored him from childhood like he would adore a baseball player. So we're very honored and very pleased, and with a nod to Steve Jobs, I hope tonight's film was made on ice something. But we're going to show a little film about Ben. Thank you.
Our guest of honor this evening has spent the greater part of his career searching for great shows to present to the American public. Ben Silverman.
Go! You are watching a history-making show. Yes, sir!
Evan, I'm impressed. You're beginning to think like a businessman.
A businesswoman.
I don't think that's a word. Everybody calm down!
You know, with NBC, I think of quality programming. There's an unbelievable tradition of wonderful programming, telling stories through emotion, through character, connecting to an audience.
Ben's strength has always been the ability to look ahead, and that is the definition of a man of vision.
I think we're living in a moment where media is exploding everywhere. You can't escape media. Media is in your PDA. Media is on your cell phone. And there's no question that digital is enabling this next revolution in media. What I'm looking to do is position how NBC drives that conversation and defines that media landscape.
It is appropriate, I think, that Ben Silverman's initials are BS. Because he is the best studio head I have ever met in my life.
I grew up watching TV, and I grew up watching NBC.
He was a great kid, and he was an entirely charismatic and smart kid. And anybody who met him knew that he was going somewhere.
He was really just very together, very focused, and also a lot of conventional smarts. And we did show him the perks because I worked in Hollywood, in the New York part of Hollywood during the 80s when he was a kid. And I think he learned to love those limousine rides.
I'm looking to create hits that enter the consciousness, that influence pop culture, and that do good at the same time.
Attention everyone, from here on out, if I want to say something funny or witty, I will no longer do any of those things.
Does that include That's What She Said?
Yes.
You really think you can go all day long?
That's what she said!
He always told me about how to convey passion and how to get things done. But he also said never give up, never stop, and don't give up in the shows. And that kind of perseverance and passion is something I learned directly from Brandon. And I'm so proud of being associated with him.
Ladies and gentlemen, Ben Silverman.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Dad. It's right, Carell couldn't come, but thank you, Dad. No, I'm just kidding. Nobody's better than Dad and Mom. I'm so proud to be here, Lily. I'm so honored to be getting this award, and your husband, ex-husband, and former husband, I don't even know how to say it, but I just want to say Brandon was my mentor. He taught me everything. I sought him out. Tyler, much like your story of breaking into NATPE, I sought Brandon out. I found him, and now I'm here and getting this award, and dare to dream. Put it in the air. I'm so pleased, Rick, that you gave me this honor. Although you say it's from my previous work, I think it's because we sponsored the event, but I'm happy about it. I also am proud to be associated with the other nominees, and I never said that. I just said you were canceling the prom. I never said the other stuff, to be very specific, my friends. But you did live up to the titles. I couldn't withstand again. I just gotta say, I mean, it's unbelievable. We make them. It's a joke. You've got it on. And Tyler, I remember the first day on the job, I was trying to get you. I was calling everyone. I called the Felt. I called anyone who listened. And then they told me about your deal at TBS, a 100-episode commitment. I'm like, I can't do that. But I just know that call came in. And I'm so glad to be sharing this stage with you. I've known you a long time. You've always given me great counsel, and you're an unbelievable champion of Ugly Betty, and for that, I owe you a lot of money. And I also need to thank the person who truly, today and throughout my career, has really defined so much for me and given me so many opportunities, both as a producer, creator, and now in this job, and that's Jeff Zucker and everybody at NBC. He really gave me so many opportunities, especially with this job, and before that as a supplier. He chose to believe in me and really gave me a lot of shots, including with The Office and Biggest Losers and shows like that. So thank you again so much. Thank you, Multi-Channel. Thank you, Broadcasting Guild. Thank you, everybody here, for being here. I love a standing room only crowd. Tyler Perry, thanks.
Anne Sweeney, from Upper New York State, still in the state, has been at Disney, as you know, for about 10 years, and is now arguably the most important woman in our business, with a multitude of responsibilities. Above and beyond all the work that she does at Disney, she also writes poetry, makes art, and as you know, is into music as well. We like that kind of stuff in there. But she's honored here tonight for her creative management of a huge portfolio of global assets. Her work at FX and Nickelodeon before presaged ultimate success at Disney. She's a champion of the creative community, and despite the complexity of her really difficult job, she does it with consummate grace. We're very happy to have her tonight. And tonight we have another recipient of the Legacy Award before, Mr. Mark Cherry, to introduce the tape and Anne. In 2005, on Halloween Day, I went to my office to begin writing at about 7 o'clock in the morning, and I got a call from our line producer, and he said that one of my actresses was not coming out of her trailer because she was unhappy with the scene. And this had never happened before. This was in season 2 that was so horrible. Anyway, so I went to the trailer and I proceeded to explain to the actress that I couldn't accomplish all the many notes she had. And she threw the script at me and said she wanted off the show. I found out later from the line producer that she went and did the scene as written, but I was in my office kind of humiliated and angry, and my secretary reminded me that I had to give an award to that woman at a breast cancer benefit in 3 weeks. So I went to that breast cancer benefit and I lied my ass off about how wonderful she was. I tell you this just to set up the fact that that was the very last time I had to present an award, and I'm really glad to be here because I actually like Anne. Before I get into all the heartfelt part of my speech, I just want to read you her resume. There's some of you who probably don't know the amazing accomplishments this woman's had. And they gave me a piece of paper, and I'm just going to read a couple of things to you. It's really quite incredible. She started her television career at the age of 19 as a page for ABC in New York. Among the shows that she worked on were Good Morning America. For those of you who are bitchy enough to ask, David Hartman was the host. In 1981, she got a job at a startup cable channel devoted to kids, Nickelodeon. It was only a year old. She was one of the first 10 employees. In 1993, she left Nick to launch a new cable network, FX. She was then chairman and CEO of FX Networks. It was the most successful U.S. launch of cable channel in history at that time. 3 years later, she joined the Walt Disney Company as president of Disney Channel and executive VP of the Disney Cable Networks. In 1998, she was promoted to president of ABC Cable Networks and president of the Disney Channel. And then, soon after that, she assumed her current role as co-chair of Disney Media Networks and president of Disney ABC Television Group in April of 2004. That was in April of 2004. In September, Lost, Desperate Housewives were launched. A month later, Grey's Anatomy was launched. 6 months later, Dancing with the Stars was launched. She had a good year. She's received so many awards. In 2008, she was inducted into the Cable Hall of Fame. The Broadcasters Foundation of America honored her with the Golden Mike for outstanding contributions to broadcasting. She's been recognized as one of Fortune magazine's 50 most powerful women in business and one of the world's 100 most powerful women by Forbes. And the Hollywood Reporter declares her the most powerful woman in entertainment every year. So that's all the resume stuff. And since you look so good, you really need to start cutting some of these things off, I would say, because this really just ages you in the most horrible way. Here's my thing about Anne. I just know her as a person, and I gotta say, I could not love her more. She has been so supportive, and not just because, like, I delivered a big hit. She is supportive in that way that when she comes on the set, she honestly wants to know how you're feeling, how are you doing. She is always accessible. She is so gracious. I think for me, because I got my start on Golden Girls, I never really met Brandon. He kind of walked by me a couple of times and smiled very nicely. But in the Golden Girls room, the way you knew that Brandon was respected is that no one trashed him. And the Golden Girls room was just famous for trashing everybody. And that's how I first knew that Brandon was really one of the legends of the industry, is because people went, he knows his stuff. And the other thing that you learned about Brandon is that he was very accessible and a legitimately nice human being. And I think that's why it's so appropriate that Anne is getting this award. She is, despite her sex, one of the good guys. And I am just so thrilled to be able to present this to you, and you really earned it. And right now we're going to show you a little film of some of what Anne's been up to. Thank you.
It's You took me in. Having you in my life, that's what makes me special.
I wasn't looking for it. I wasn't ready for that.
You gonna kiss me? Are we really going home? We're really going home.
I believe that we can be extraordinary together rather than ordinary apart.
Magic? Love the outfit.
Isn't it exciting? Yeah.
Our bus tour begins tonight in Dayton, Ohio. This is going to be a fascinating night of counting votes.
Do you think the campaign coverage of you has been sexy? There's no reason that this shouldn't go global.
This is real. This is me. They all have my company. Yes, someone, but I'll slim, take on set, multi-flashy line of fun. I'm so make it turning things to be. But I'm on.
Tonight we're going to party like it's the year 3000.
And he also told me, honey, as soon as that tape is over, get up and run, don't leave a pause, so I'm here. You know, Brandon Tartikoff's legacy, and I think we spent the last week talking an awful lot about legacy and what it means. Brandon's legacy, as everybody in this room knows, is more than TV shows, and it's more than decisions, and it's really about the people that he met, the people he brought along the way, the beautiful stories. The story that Chuck told tonight is really what I think about when I think about legacy, and what I think about when I think about someone like Brandon Tartikoff. Mark Cherry is one of those wonderful people, one of those great legacies of Brandon's, and he's also a great gift in my life and certainly at our company. I think, as we all know, TV really isn't for the faint of heart. It's for the innovators, it's for the visionaries, it's for the people that care enough to take the big steps, the big risky chances out there. And Brandon was all of that. And Lily is too. And if you know Lily, she brings that same kind of vision and that commitment and that courage to everything she does. And the fight against cancer is hers to win. And every time I walk with her, I'm encouraged and I'm inspired. You know, I've always loved TV and yes, Mark, I promise I'm really going to cut that stuff out of my bio, but from the time I was 19, I loved it because I never knew what was going to happen next. Every day was different. Every show they put me on was different. And you know, I always thought that that's why I loved it, that's why I went into it, that's what was so great about my job. And then you hit well, it feels like years, but kind of the weeks and months we've been having in this terrible economy, and you think, well, maybe I'd like a little more certainty. Maybe I'd like to know what's going to happen next. But regardless of the economic climate we're in, I feel just incredibly lucky to be a part of this industry, to be honored by NATPE and Broadcast and Cable and Variety and multi-channel news tonight. I'm so passionate about what I do, and I do feel lucky every day. And I also feel extremely extremely lucky to have a wonderful husband and family who, Phil's here, who have supported me through all of those very long nights and trips and crazy scheduling meetings, and when your children know what an upfront is when they're 10 years old, it's kind of, well, let's put it this way, it makes them a little different at school. But thank you. This award is not just a joy, but it's a great privilege, and I'm really looking forward to taking it back to Disney and back to ABC and sharing it with all the great people there who really take forward this wonderful legacy